He might not be from Krypton, but he's heads above the rest. His knowledge can't be questioned. You can put it to the test. So if you want to hear the truth and have nowhere else to go, I'll give you the solution. Just tune into his show and just kneel before Zack. Kneel before Zack. Kneel before Zack. Kneel before Zack.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Fandom Zone. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money-taking, the man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying villain in all of YouTube entertainment today, Mr. Zod. And today with me, I have a very special guest. Time zones suck, so it was a bit of a challenge. It was a bit of a challenge lining everything up, but I'm so glad you're here. I would like to introduce Mr. Zack Leary. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, man. I love your intro.
Thank you. I constructed it because apparently, according to the YouTube gods, I can't use General Zod because it's trademarked, even though I'm going to be doing some promotion for DC Fandom. The Warner Bros. Is still very touchy about that stuff, so I changed it to Mr. Zod. But it was, I had someone build the intro for me, Stone Loki, and he took the music that Gary had made and put it together. So I'm not really good at those kind of details, but
that's classic, man. That's awesome. Great intro.
Thank you.
I'm glad nobody could see me. I was dancing a little bit, dancing along to it. That's good. That's really good. That's a fun intro. I love
it. So I went live for a little bit because I was like, oh man, I got to do something, because I had a few people here, and then I was like, we started chatting. I'm like, yeah, I can get this interview out, because I was really excited to meet you. So for the good people who don't know, who are you and what have you done? So all of those people out there know what it is you do and what you're working on and stuff.
Well, I guess the most that people would know me from is probably YouTube. I've done a few podcasts over the years. We've done millions of views. My current two channels have 40,000 subs between them. So I do that, but I've been doing some indie producing. We've done games, video games. Some are on the Steam store, and we've done animated films and short films, and also the book. I've got a book out.
Yes, which I did link that in the description, so people can check that out. But you are on Amazon, and there's some stats I think you would want to share with people, because it's very interesting about your book. So what's the name of the book, and where did you place in Amazon? Because I was talking to you about this. I found it very spectacular, especially in the Amazon market.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. We placed at number 50 in space opera, which is pretty cool. We for during the promotion, we beat most of the Star Wars books out there, most of the Trek books too.
That is nuts, because Star Wars is a really big established franchise, Star Trek and things like that. Granted, the new Trek and the new Star Wars stuff, in my opinion, has been trash, because they're just not doing stuff. And it shows that you have to have some kind of creative engineering behind your story, because people want that kind of stuff. They want that kind of medium. They're missing the medium that intrigues the mind. So, if you don't mind, do you want to give a little synopsis about what your book's about? And
well, the book is it's a darker version of what is sort of your classical space opera. I've always wanted to see what that would look like. So I've developed the series for like 5 years. And it's essentially, it's a space opera that is more brutal, more realistic, and yet delivers like the same fun and the same intrigue that the normal stories do.
Wow, that is, and here's the thing too. A lot of these projects and things like that, especially when you're talking about marketing and everything like that, they tend to, especially these days, try to market towards kiddie stuff or family things, and we all know the companies that do that. I'm talking to you, Disney. They try to think that there's this market that you can't go dark and gritty and still have fun, and get people involved in the adventure, while giving an adult and mature undertone to your story. I think that's very cool, and it's hard to do, man. Like I used to write a lot when I had time, and writing is tough. Like balancing story and story structure, trying to make interesting and intriguing characters, and it's almost like you got to come up with your characters first before you even construct the story, and then come up with the story and okay, how do the characters fit in the world? Where does the backstories go from here and there? I've always found the process very intriguing. So you've worked on indie films, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many indie projects have you done?
I would say probably 10, something like that.
That's a lot. So
That's including games, though, and animations.
So what makes so you do the film part and you do the writing part. For you, what is the difference, film versus, writing a book?
Well, I mean, the acting part is one of the most interesting parts of it. I'm not really that comfortable acting, but it's the same thing, really. I think an actor and a writer and a director, they're all storytellers. So it comes out to be the same thing in the end. Is an actor is there to help tell the story. I prefer writing because I don't like limitation, and you'll find how limiting it is if you try and make a film. It's so tough. It's so tough. Or if you try to get a video game going, it's just a rocky road. But when you're writing, you can essentially do whatever you want.
And the only person who limits that kind of creative process is your own imagination, right? You're only limited by what you can think of, as opposed to having someone you got to go through, having people you got to talk with, you got to talk with this one, that one, outside. We hear it all the time, like outside interferences, and studios going, well, I don't think if I really like that, it's not going to play well with this kind of an audience. Do you think that now, because we've talked a lot, and we were talking about this off air, we've talked a lot about like what's going on with Star Wars and things like that. And do you think a lot of what limits things in Hollywood is the fact that studios are stuck in this kind of mold that they want to do this particular thing, they want to be in this particular area, and it's limiting creators to unlock their potential and give us the best story that they can?
That's probably a big part of it. And I think another problem they have is they hire the wrong people. I think that's a big, big problem. And I think hiring the right person is probably the most important factor. Just take a look at the difference between Favreau's Mandalorian and take a look at the sequel films. I mean, it's a night and day difference in terms of everything, in terms of tone, in terms of creativity, in terms of differentiation, which is something you want with a big franchise like that. You want your individual projects within that universe to stand out and be different. And the recycling of the old material is something you do not want at all. So the fact that they went in and tried to do that on purpose is really kind of perplexing to me.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing: you could really use anything these days to see this template of recycling, constantly using the same exact type of formula. I mean, and some shows do it to where it works out well. Like, the first season of Stranger Things, I thought they did a pretty good job with getting the 80s nostalgia but telling an original story. But like most shows, it keeps on going on and it just kind of goes down from there. But that was a pretty good way of playing off the nostalgia but having an original story. But most people can't do that now. They just take an old property and they think, okay, I got this name. There's people who have fond memories and that are attached to this named product, and I'm just going to get them in off the name. And sometimes it works. Most times it doesn't. Being in that kind of world and dealing with the directing and writing portion of it, have you, like, making a film and stuff, come across these issues where you've wanted to do something and they kind of want to hold you into this like one specific thing, or have you not ran into that, making indie type projects?
You totally have differences of opinion all the time. I mean, everybody wants to put their own spin into it, which is a good thing. That's part of it. But yeah, it can be tricky. It's always tricky. I mean, you'll have a camera guy who wants to design the shots, which can be a problem. You know what I mean? When you've worked on shot lists and the guy's out there saying, well, how about we do this? Which you want to listen to that, but we've spent a week designing the shot list and doing storyboards for it. So yeah, you have that kind of stuff all the time, and you have. I think the other massive challenge is scheduling. So hard. I think filmmaking is mainly a management process. That's the major thing that you need to be aware of is just the amount of people and the amount of moving parts that all need to be lined up is just crazy.
And this
Super
is
stressful, too.
And this is the most interesting part of being able to talk to you, because I've always been curious. Like, you've been down in the trenches in like the film process, so about all this stuff, and it's interesting to hear that, because when I'm watching a film, because I come from the critiquing world, and originally on my channel I critique and I break down cinematography and line delivery and things like that, how did the story flow and stuff like that. And I always say to myself, like, man, what the hell were they thinking with this shot? Or why this line of dialogue here, it doesn't fit. And to hear you say like how everyone has to say, like, I never knew the camera guy could be like, you know what, guys, I want to do this kind of a shot, so in your mind you have it framed up how you believe you want the shot to go. But then you got to convey that with a camera guy. It's like, how does the delegation of power go? Like, how much power does the director actually have? Does the producer actually have? I mean,
well, it totally depends on who the director is. That's what it comes down to. If I'm working with somebody and I hired them because I want what they can add to it. Some people aren't like that. Some people want to bring people in and mold what that person is doing according to what they want, which is fine too. They're both fine. But if I bring on an actor, I generally do not want to mess with what they're trying to do. So I leave that to them almost, completely, unless there's a question for me. I mean, I think another big part of being a director is making everything connect together. is you have to have a story that can go between scenes, go from scene to scene, have a certain flow to it, a certain tone visually, a certain tone delivery wise, and that's important. That's totally important.
Wow, I mean, it's so interesting because for years, since I started this, and I'm actually glad to be in a position to get people like yourself and other people that I got coming to be able to talk to them, because I've always wanted to know these things, and I've always been close to cinema, writing, things like that. I worked at a movie theater. I loved the smell of popcorn coming in, you know what I mean, and shooting the shit with customers and things like that. And I've always loved that type of world, and I've always felt like when I'm watching these things, I would just love to know what they were thinking. So I guess my next question, and what I find really important, because this question right here, this kind of shapes a director or a writer or an author's vision. What inspired you? Like, how did you decide one day you were like, I'm going to do film, I'm going to write books? Like, what was your inspiration for wanting to get into this field?
I guess it's well, you have the ideas, you know. For me, that's the number one thing. Is I love storytelling. I guess it begins as being a massive, huge nerd and fan for movies and for books and storytelling in general, for characters. That's kind of where it all comes from. If you're a great if you have great knowledge of movies and you love movies, naturally, I think you'll have a little bit of interest in that, maybe for some people, but that's where it all comes from, is a love for film.
What was the film or the movie in particular that really inspired you and you said, you know what, I want to make movies, I want to get into this field? Like, what was the movie for you? Because I guess every person gets asked that, and you know,
I don't think I had that thought, man. I never had that thought. My thought was centered towards a particular story. I didn't say I want to make movies. I would love to be a writer, and to continue to write. I would love to do that, but I had an idea for a particular story, and once you get into writing that story and bringing that story to life, and like I told you, I started it like 5 years ago, maybe longer than that, and from there, it starts to you start to meet people. It starts to, and especially if you go out and explore the indie scene, every town has an indie film scene, so it's very easy to get involved in those. You can being an extra is a great way to start for anybody. Is just go down and see how what other people are doing. See if you can get onto a professional set and just watch what they're doing. But for me, it came down to, I had an idea for a story, and from there, it sort of intrigued me and led to different projects.
Wow. So so now, you know, you had this idea, like you've been doing these indie films and projects. Now, I'm gonna assume, did your book come after you were in films, and then you wanted to try your hand at writing, or were the films after the book?
The book was first. The book was first, but it wasn't published. But the book got everything started for me.
So, you know, where did your inspiration for writing this book come from? Like, did it just like, was it just like, bam, you had this idea and then it sort of grew, or was it, you know, something caught you and you're like kind of expanded upon that?
Well, I mean, I would get fragments of an idea. I think that's how it works for a lot of people, but that's how it is for me. is I will get a fragment of a certain idea. And if that fragment is intriguing, then it goes from there. I mean, I think what I do is I have these fragments. I'm sorry, can you hear that?
A little bit.
Sorry.
There we go. All right.
Okay. So, yeah, I will get these fragments of ideas. And if it's super intriguing, sometimes you'll get this really just intriguing idea, like, oh, that would be so cool. It'll just pop into my head. And from there, you get all these little pieces and you sort of fit them together. And I guess the influence of that is it's kind of an amalgamation of what you like. You know, it's the type of films you like, the type of stories you like, and characters too.
So when you got this fragment of an idea, or you've had this idea for this book, and now you're working on different things, and you said you had the book before you started working on films. As you're working on these, did ideas start to form for your book, and then you started putting it together, or was it just kind of like the same thing? You'd work on something, but you always had this in the back of your mind, like.
Well, I find that when I start to work on something, that's all that I can think about. But before you begin working on something, you have all these different ideas. But once you zero in on that idea, then you're totally focused on that idea.
So how long did it take for you to write this book? Because I read like Game of Thrones and things like that, and I swear to God, at this point, George is trolling us with this last book. Like he'll take pictures from his vacation. Yeah, I'm gonna be working on the book soon, and he's on a beach. Damn you, George! Get that last book out.
And then he puts out Fire and Blood, like a 1,000-page sidestep.
like he's the biggest troll in the world. But like for you, once you had the idea and you started diving into it, how long did it take for you to make this first book, like just to get it done? And then if you can kind of go over the process after that, once you had everything, the manuscript done, like how long did it take to make that, and then how long did it take to get like a publisher and things like that and get it into print?
Well, the getting through it, like you said, is just the number one thing you have to do. I mean, it's if you're starting to write, it's important that you don't go back and correct yourself while you are doing it. Not only will that slow you down to a rate which is where it's going to take you a couple of years to do it, but also if you go back and correct your first draft as you're doing it, you're going to get rid of some of that spark by cleaning it up. You know, so it's important to sort of let that just be what it is. It's a first draft. And the first book was probably rewritten 3 or 4 times, the whole thing.
Wow.
And then the second one, funny enough, so it took a few years to do the first one, and it wasn't published. And then I went to do the second one, and I finished it in like 2 months. Perfect, exactly what I wanted. So it's weird. I don't know. I guess it can vary.
Wow. So I mean, now this book, is it like a series, or is it self-contained, or the same universe? Like do you have a long-term plan for the characters and things like that?
Yeah. So I have 5 books written for the series, and I'm pretty much putting it away now. I'm sort of gonna try and do some other things. But during COVID, I wrote another one, a spin-off book for the series. But yeah, it is a series, 5 books so far.
Wow, that is crazy. It sounds to me like the first one takes the longest and is the hardest because you're kind of in this place where you're establishing the world. A first of anything is important. Hello, Wildcard. Good to see you, and hello everyone out there. I'm sorry if I haven't gotten to the chat yet. I see you guys. I'm just engaged. So I mean, it sounds like the first book is kind of like your template, and it's important because you're establishing your characters, you're establishing the world, and then you have a little bit more leeway for those in between parts because you've already got your main characters established, your villains, whatever else, how things operate in the world. And so from there it's kind of a little bit easier to write the other pieces because I always hear from various authors and things like that when I look it up that uh, the beginning and the end seem to always be the hardest part of anything that you do. Have you, when you started writing this, do you have an end game in mind, or is it just I'm going as I'm going and wherever I stop is going to be where I stop?
The first thing I do is I do a tentpole outline, which is basically all the major story beats you want to hit. And I outline whatever project I'm working on. I'll outline a script. I'll outline a film. I'll outline whatever it is, a book. So that way, when you're doing it, when you're writing it, if you have no ideas at all that day, if you just can't figure out what to do, you've got this outline. I like to basically just let it organically, let the story just tell itself, essentially. But if you get stuck, you've got this amazing outline. Like, well, you've got all these different beats, and you've gone down this far. Well, you've got these next couple of story beats you can just reference to help you. So that's how I do it. I have an outline, and then I just basically I don't refer to it unless I have to.
Which is that's very intriguing because thank you, Rebecca, for the like. I appreciate it. It's basically like good to have those when I remember from the basics of high school, they always said write an outline and all that stuff. It's cool to hear that still used because I feel like nowadays a lot of people just don't write anything, for a structure, whether you're watching a film or a movie or show, and you get to the end of it and it's like, did you guys even like have a plan? And I think that goes back to like the Star Wars canon, right? The the Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker are perfect examples of that because you can see two different plans, two different outlines, because you got Jar Jar, I'm sorry, JJ, who appeared to have a direction he wanted to go. Then you put Johnson in the middle, and he was just like, nah, I don't want any of this. And he had what he saw. And then JJ came back and tried to swing back to what his idea was. So it makes sense that when you're doing something like this, you want to have a roadmap to where you want to go before you write.
Well, I think JJ had an idea of what he wanted to do, but I don't think he had, in terms of to do a retro film. But I don't know if JJ actually had an idea. I don't see an idea in that entire film. I see a carbon copy of A New Hope. So JJ, in my opinion, did not have an idea for the sequel films. He had a monetary idea. He had a marketing idea, but he didn't have a story idea. Snoke is Palpatine. Kylo Ren is Vader. Even the structure of the story plays out exactly the same. It's so blatant when you look at it. The film, both films, New Hope and Force Awakens, begin with a Star Destroyer. Like beat by beat, they're exactly the same. The Star Destroyer comes across the screen. A droid is given a secret plan. In Force Awakens, it's the map to Luke given to BB-8 on a desert planet. It's beat by beat exactly the same. If you watch them side by side, and some people have cut that together, it's the exact same story.
And here's the thing too. I'm looking at this High Republic garbage, and I'm a big fan of comic books and things like that. Mr. Zod. I've been following DC forever. Although the irony is, I actually started with Marvel, and I'm a Marvel fan too. My big introduction to comics was the X-Men. I remember seeing like the old school X-Men uniforms with the yellow X, and they look atrocious now. But when I was a kid, it was like bigger than life, right? And it always felt with comic books like Stan Lee had this grand plan and he executed it perfectly all the time. And like watching the way everything is structured now and things like that, and looking at this new High Republic, and dude, they have a rock.
Yep.
I wanted to get your ideas live about this, because you write, I mean, you do scripts, you do stories and stuff like this. How ridiculous is it that we've come to a point that creativity boils down to we have a rock as a Force user?
Well, I mean, if it was like a rock golem, it might be a different story, like a little rock creature, with legs and stuff. I don't know. I mean, it's just a big rock. I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, it's almost like a troll to me. It's like, here's our new character. It's just a giant fucking rock. I don't get it. I do not get it. I mean, there's no face, there's no arms, it doesn't visibly look alive. It's a fucking rock. So I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I mean, it's really dumb. I mean, I guess it's fucking stupid.
And that's the thing that gets me is seeing these morally or just bankrupt ideas. And this is my problem with Disney. Like, I was talking to some friends last night. I was on a stream with a good friend of mine from here, Perp Minded, and we were talking about the MCU and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, you're gonna watch Winter Soldier and stuff like that." And I was like, "No, this is why I'm not watching Disney Plus, because what I see now is a corporation that's banking on nostalgia, and they're cashing in on nostalgia and these things we love, but they're not looking at making anything new and innovative." And I heard Raya was pretty good. It was actually the first creative thing, from what I've heard. I haven't seen the movie, but I heard it was one of the first creative things they've done in years. But it's like, why is it so hard to make something original today? I mean, you're doing it. I talk to tons of people. You're, on the indie scene, you must come across so many creative people with fresh new ideas that people just don't want to take a chance on. They don't want, they don't see any profit in it.
A lot of it is amateur, man, in the indie scene. Some of it's real amateur. So, if you dive into it, you'll get a sense of that, where some of the ideas seem recycled. So that's happening even among indie people. That's still happening, totally happening. But I think when you talk about why do they keep making sequels, well, it's got an established fan base. That's the number one thing is they want to. It almost seems like a scam to me, the sequel trilogy. It's false advertising. But the other point is this: I think after a certain point, you've done all you can do with the story. I think at a certain point, you've already done everything you could do if you want to do it in that way. I think they've already essentially have done pretty much everything you can do with your mainstream Star Wars film. I think it's done. I can't really see what else they could do. What they have done, what they've showed me, is that they can repeat themselves. Okay. but I think there's some really good opportunities for Star Wars projects that are off the beaten path. Mandalorian is totally one of those stories. I would love to see a Grievous film, but they'll never make something like that. They'll never make something weird like that. I would love to see a Star Wars where the brutality is a part of it. I'd love to see a rated R Star Wars film, but they're not going to do it. So I guess after a certain point, and that has to do with the brand, the family-friendly brand, which is a huge problem and a huge handicap. So I think the family-friendly Star Wars is essentially done. It's boring now.
Yeah. TJ says, Zack, true, but I understand the offshoots. Yeah, I mean, for me, the one I liked the most, and they rag at it, but really, I loved Rogue One because Rogue One was such a departure from, and I thought that's where Disney was going to go. I was like,
was it a departure? I mean, it's the Empire. It's the Empire. It's Grand Moff Tarkin. It's the Death Star. It's the Rebels. It's the same thing, man. I mean, it's a little different just because it's not a series film, but to me, it's totally the same thing. You got Darth Vader in there.
I meant tonally. I felt like it was a different direction because they went a little bit darker with the story, especially having Vader kill all those people because he killed them. Like he totally murdered all of those people. And I was like, oh well, even though it is essentially the same thing, if this is the direction Disney wants to go, I'm totally down because I'm feeling this like gritty kind of, you had the good guy, but then he shoots the guy in the alley and you're like, whoa, I'm not used to, this is supposed to be like the hero, but he just offs this guy because he's like, yeah, I can't afford you getting captured. So blaster, I did like key scenes where I saw potential, but then like you said, we go back falling into the same tropes, falling in the same ideas. It was like, it's like, I don't know. And and I feel like the MCU is starting to get the same thing. And I know a lot of people are MCU fans, so they're going to be like, oh my God, but really it is the same thing. They have the same formulaic thing. And the reason why I liked Infinity War was because it did something different that we hadn't seen. You never see like the villain win, essentially. That's what Thanos did. And then they did the confusing end game and
right.
The
Thanos story. I love Infinity War, one of my favorite all-time movies. I think probably the best Marvel film. But when it comes to Rogue One, I get why you like it. I like it too, to a certain extent. But it's the Rebels versus the Empire again. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I think that we should never see stormtroopers again. And it doesn't make sense to me why a new organization would have stormtroopers. The First Order, why are they stormtroopers?
I could totally agree with that. Yeah, I could totally get behind that.
I think a great design would be Snoke's bodyguards. Would be a great grunt soldier for the new First Order faction. But they just gave him stormtroopers instead. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. And yes, Janie, I agree. Captain America Winter Soldier was my favorite. I did martial arts. If you guys can see my security uniform, I think that's the only reason why they hired me for mall security. Anyways, I did martial arts and I appreciate the choreograph on that. And that's another big thing. When I watch films, I watched a choreograph. And when I saw Last Jedi, I was like, oh my God, the fight choreograph is so, you've got 250 million in this project and you're telling me you can't get people to get good fight choreograph for a lightsaber battle? Like that person just losing their weapon, like it just disappears out of the shot. Literally the whole thing disappears. The editing and the choreograph was atrocious in that film. Absolutely atrocious.
Totally. That's where it comes down to hiring the right people, man. I think that's the most important thing. If we had a different president of Lucasfilm, we would have a totally different sequel trilogy. I mean, different directors, we would have different films. It's a surprise to me that they went with J.J. Abrams after the Star Trek thing. I'm not a big fan of those new Trek movies, but I get that J.J. has a box office track record, but and Ryan Johnson is a nobody. I mean, to hire a guy who did one indie film is crazy. For them to hire me would be fucking crazy. For them to hire a guy like Ryan Johnson, who is a television director, totally when he was hired, totally a step up from me, no doubt about that. But he hasn't done anything. He did 2 episodes of Breaking Bad. That's what he's known for, in a film called Looper, which wasn't very good anyway. Is he a talented guy? I don't know, because he doesn't have a track record. So why would they hire him? The fact that they would hire the guys who did Lego Batman to do Solo just shows how crazy they are. Lord Miller.
Yeah, they're
What the fuck are they thinking, hiring Lord and Miller to do a Star Wars movie? They're crazy. They're hiring the wrong people across the board. Just bad hiring decisions.
absolutely astonishing. It's like when I look at and then you look at the people they got rid of, and we were talking about this earlier, and it's purely, I feel like it's purely politics at this point. It's like politics motivate a lot of decisions, and Kathleen's vision of where she wants to go, and there's been all of these theories, but I feel like this woman, like, they say she wants to destroy Lucas and all this stuff. I don't believe that. I just believe that she has no idea what she's doing as far as films. Right? You can have someone who can market stuff and put stuff out there, which was essentially, from how I understand it, what she did. And she's probably damn good at that. But
yeah, I'm sure.
Running division, running Lucas, and having creative control, you need creative people to run that. You need people who Favreau and Filoni. They eat, sleep, and breathe creativity, whatever the story is. They get themselves into it. For Filoni, he's been doing Star Wars. He's like Lucas's right-hand guy for years. I mean, you want someone who understands whatever you're doing and respects the material and respects the universe. And Kathleen, for her, she's just seeing money, and I think that's what the big thing is. And it's the same across the board with no matter what we're talking about. Any franchise, it seems these days, they put the money aspect before hiring the right people for the job.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, Kennedy is not a creative person. A producer is essentially there to provide the director with what they need, in terms of providing them with the right equipment, setting everything up on time, securing financial resources. So that's what a producer does. A producer is a management job. That's what that is. There's no creative aspect usually when it comes to producers. You get some weird ones out there who want you to do a certain thing. That a producer will want you to put a giant spider in the film. Strange shit like that. You get some really weird requests. Can he be a robot? When it's a drama, you'll get that kind of weird stuff. So there's some producers out there who will try and give you ideas, and they won't do it unless you do their idea. But for the most part, a producer is there to help you out and to be a manager.
And do you feel like that when you talk about these projects that fail, that it's not just one particular thing, because here's the sad thing. You always seem, when a project goes and doesn't go the way people want it, you always seem them blame the writers, directors, actors, and things like that. But I feel like sometimes there's people behind the scenes we don't see. Like I can't tell you how many times I'm a huge fan of the X-Men franchises, but some of those movies, and it's just like I feel like what I got or what I saw wasn't what the person envisioned, but there's someone behind the scenes just monking it up, and they're like, no, 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 I don't like this, and the next thing you know, you got this weird, crazy idea that doesn't fit in. Like, can studios tank things? Do
Totally.
they?
Yeah. Yeah. But I would say for the most of the time, and you totally have what you just said, but I would say most of the time, if a film is not very good, you can blame the director, and you should, because the director is the person who has final say. Most of the if he has final cut, if your director has final cut, then totally blame the director. The director usually is involved in most of the hiring choices. So it's a director's fault if they hire a cinematographer who cannot deliver what they need. As the director, if they can't deliver for you, and if they can't make your vision happen, then you've hired the wrong person. So the directing job is part management too. It's knowing it's knowing what you want, and it's knowing and understanding the people that you bring into it. You have to know the capability of the people you bring in.
Yeah, Big Daddy-O, I know the investors at the shareholder meeting. I heard those. Which, by the way, did you hear that shareholders meeting? I know it's been on YouTube a lot, and
Yeah.
am I the only one who thinks that new Bob is an idiot? I can't see. This guy seems so clueless to me. Like,
allow me to attack some YouTube channels. I have been really upset by the people out there who are running channels with 1,000 subscribers, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 subscribers, which have been for years telling everybody how they have these amazing sources inside of Lucasfilm that for some reason went to a small channel, and that they have this concrete information. There's a whistleblower that's communicating with them through email about how Kennedy was on her way out, how there's a civil war inside of Lucasfilm. These people, to me, are grifters. And I'm very disappointed in anybody who was out there doing that. It's playing upon people's disappointment. That's what it is it's taking the disappointment and you're claiming to have the answers to it. So there's a monetary situation there too, where you're getting paid by misleading people. So I have a big problem with anybody who made those claims, because what we found out in that meeting is that they love Kennedy and they want Kennedy to stay on for another 10 years. So I've heard these rumors. I've heard people saying this, that she was on her way out. I've got inside sources all the way back in 2017. And it's not just one or two people. There's a few of them out there who have been saying that.
yeah, and you know what? I totally and completely agree with you. I don't like shouting out other people. I was a part of a subsect with a pretty infamous hashtag, and there was a lot of the people in this community all saying the same things, and I come at it like this. Like, right now, I'm finally monetized. I got 20 people watching. Thank you very much. And when I come out and say something or present something, I don't want to just come out and say something just because it's the new biggest thing. I want to look into this. Like, when I started getting into Johnny Depp, I looked at the the court stuff. I went to other channels. I talked to people who's been covering it for a while to get inside information and find out the whole story and then come at it from my angle. But I never want to just keep on doing stuff about something just to get clicks, because it's misleading. It's wrong.
I would make this comparison. It would be like if you had done a bunch of videos saying that you had somebody from Johnny Depp's lawyers team in contact with you, and this is what's going to happen next. Well, that's how it would be. That's a great comparison. It's beyond dishonest. And I feel like anybody out there making those claims, listen, folks, you shouldn't be watching them, because they don't care about integrity. They don't care about honesty. So for me, that's a major thing. And nobody seems to care. People seem to be giving these people a free pass. Now that we have the proof that all these people are frauds, I think they should be called out for it.
I absolutely 100% agree. When I started my channel, I started it on like, yeah, at times I could get things wrong in the story and stuff like that, but I'm doing like, late night talks or something like that, and it's for comedic value. And I've screwed up on words and things like that, and my co-hosts and things will call me out. It's a fun thing, but if I drop something like serious, like the other day I was talking about Dexter, which, folks, I'm going to be bringing you more Dexter stuff because people are interested in the revival. We'll get that ending we wanted.
I like Dexter. Yeah, I saw the whole thing, man. Good show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I had gotten those set photos, and then Father Zod had sent me, before I did the show, something from the paper from where they were actually shooting, or the online transcription. So I knew exactly where it was going to be shot, what scene was going to be shot there, and things like that. And I want to do stuff like that, because I've even had people come on here and go, thanks for informing us about this, because that's the problem I've been having with the media. And one of my other reasons for starting this channel were based on reviewers telling people about movies, but not giving them anything about the movie. They'll say it's a great movie, you should go and see it because it's empowering, or it's diverse, right? Well, that's not the movie. What the hell is the movie about? You're telling me it has a diverse cast and it has these great topics, but you haven't named a scene. You haven't told me what grabs you, the acting, the actress, who brings the characters to life. None of that. And the same thing goes with people that YouTube, right? You go to your favorite YouTuber who does these things. And yeah, I know some of us aren't paid. We aren't in the scene, right? We're just reporting on things we hear and giving our own personal spin. But it's got to be something we hear, something verified, like Jesus Christ. Sometimes like that Mike Zero guy. Has made a career on this YouTube platform. Well,
he's a liar. That's that's what it comes down to. Guys like that. I have so little respect for that.
Well, I appreciate that. You find myself insightful, because I always want to do stuff that's not out of hate and rage. Look, I'm just as mad as everybody else who is reporting this stuff. I'm mad at Kathleen. I'm mad at Lucas. I'm mad at them destroying entertainment that we love. I am sure as hell hating cancel culture right now. I think it's terrible. I don't think you should cancel anyone, because it's a very slippery slope. But at the same time, I'm not going to exploit people's feelings just to get clicks. I think it's the most atrocious thing. Me and my father were talking about this, like people putting out all of these videos, and you go in there and you think you're going to get some information. They get the ad revenue, and then it's just like, oh, Abu Nas, thank you, buddy. He says, salute, Mr. Zod and my bro Zack. I'm on break at work. Just popped in to show support. we differ on some opinions and on some things, but it's all good still. Yeah, but
Is he talking about you or me with the difference of opinion?
probably me. This goes back. Me and Abu Nas first met for Game of Thrones, and I hated season 8. I called it from the first episode. I said it was going to be trash, and I was right. I called it, and he gave it some leeway. Bless his soul, and he made some good points for certain episodes, and I always love having a back and forth with him. He's a very spirited guy.
Well, no, he is a good guy. Abu Nas is a great guy. Anybody watching, go sub to him. I with me, we have a disagreement too. I'm not that into the Snyderverse.
Oh, me neither.
Yeah. So, but he, people like what they like. The Snyderverse stuff is interesting because it's enjoyable, but I don't think it's going to ever be definitive. What Zack Snyder has done will never ever be the definitive version of those characters on the screen. Never in a million years. However, with Marvel, those depictions of those characters will be the definitive versions of those characters. The Black Panther character, the Spider-Man character, all of those characters, the Thor character, Iron Man, those are the definitive versions of those characters on the screen. And when they do Fantastic Four, those will be the definitive versions. It'll be interesting to see what they do with X-Men, because they're going to do something totally different. But the Snyder version, I do like that stuff. I do watch that stuff. I enjoy it to a certain degree. Aside from, we'll put Man of Steel over there. Not a big fan of that, but it's not going to be the kind of film. It's just another Batman movie. It's just another Batman movie. It's just another Superman movie. It doesn't seem like a connected thing to me either. But I am going to watch it, man. The Justice League looks good. I'm going to check it out for sure.
Yeah, for me, I'm not really excited about the Justice League Snyder Cut as everyone else is. I don't think it could be worse than what we got. But in Batman versus Superman, I hated that movie. I don't care what anyone tells me. That Lex Luthor.
It's interesting, though, right? Would you say it's interesting?
Oh, it kept I own it.
Okay.
I own it. I mean,
I didn't like it either. But it's interesting though to see what it's just weird. It's different,
Amuda says, "Oh," he said, "Oh no, Mr. Todd." Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. For me, Lex Luthor will always be Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville. That was my definitive Lex Luthor because of the complexities. You had the father dynamic between him and Lionel. You had the relationship between him and Clark. And to make you, by the end of the series, even though you know where it's going, to want those two characters to be best friends. And how many years did they play that up to where, like, every season you're like, and something happens and you just see him going down and down and down and down until he finally kills his own father and becomes the Lex Luthor that we know. That was some brilliant acting for a CW show. I mean, we don't get stuff like that from the CW anymore. We don't get things like Arrow when it first came out. Now it's Batwoman. Well, I mean, it's hard being a DC fan.
It is. We got to ask Abu if he's still here. What he thinks of the Jesse Eisenberg Luthor. I think that is one of the most insufferable choices I've ever seen. For me, Lex. Listen, guys. If Abu's here, I'd love to hear what he thinks of this. For me, Lex Luthor was just as annoying as Jar Jar Binks in that film.
Ooh, that's some strong words.
He was so annoying. He was so insufferable, and you just cringed every time you saw him. You just cringed.
And I mean,
that's a bad casting choice. I would have hired Bryan Cranston, somebody like that.
Oh, Oh yeah, Bryan Cranston. Oh my God, you're talking about a totally different, a Breaking Bad, Luther. You know, yeah, Abu agrees with you. He says Eisenberg was the weak link, but I understood where Zack Snyder was going with him. I understand. Look, I understand the choices in the movie, but there's a difference between um, having an idea in mind, right? And you're like, okay, this is where I want to go. But like you said, when you cast the actor or the actress or whatever, they got to be able to pull that idea off. And look, I don't necessarily prescribe, and I've had this argument to, oh, Batman can't kill people. I mean, read the graphic novels. He does. I mean, even the cartoon show. Yes, he didn't physically like stab the person or whatever, but if he kicks them off a cliff, I'm gonna assume they're gonna die. I mean, there's been a couple of
Well,
times where he hasn't killed them, but it's pretty safe to say they're dead.
well, I mean, the Tim Burton ones I think are the most death filled ones. I mean, how many people did Michael Keaton's Batman kill in those movies? I remember him shooting people and blowing people up and shooting rockets.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in the Tim Burton version, he did. I'm pretty sure when he shot that rocket, there was, I think it was Batman's Returns. He shot a missile at a dude, and he went flying up in the air. It was one of the clown people jumping all around him. Like, yeah, that dude's not alive. He's definitely he caught a missile to the chest. I don't think he's coming back for the sequel. I mean, you know, there is good arguments. So when like Batman, shot someone and ran through their car, I wasn't like, oh my God, Batman's killing people. But the problem is tonally, they made Superman dark and they made Batman dark. You can't do that because you have to have a contrast between light and dark. The whole argument between Batman and Superman is Superman's basically a Boy Scout and Batman knows how the world works. And he's always going to keep his sunny optimism because that's the character. It's hope. Whereas Batman is always going to be kind of on the edge because he lost his parents and he realizes how the real world works.
I was trying to find my Dark Knight Returns movie. I have it over here somewhere. Have you seen the animation film?
Oh, yeah. I own both of them.
I love those movies. I mean, for me, that's what they should have went for, was the Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, most definitely. Oh my goodness. I'm gathering on the time where I'm going to have to get ready to go because a villain has to go secure the rest of the world. Man, I enjoyed this talk. I would definitely love to have you back on. I could talk like superheroes all day,
Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, not a problem. Go check out Zack's book, Darkspace. It's on Amazon. I got the link in the description. Go check out his podcast. You talk about this stuff on your podcast, don't you?
Pretty much, yeah.
So, you could get to the nuts and bolts, and I really appreciate having you on the channel. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thank you, Abu Nas, for coming on through. Man, hit me up in the DMs, Abu. I would love to have you in the Phantom Zone sometime, and we can have a debate over the Snyderverse take of things. I would love to talk with you about it. He's a great guy. Go check out Abu Nas's channel. Go sub to him. He's got some really great points, and he debates fairly. I like watching this stuff. But anyways, thank you everybody for watching. Retweet, share, all of that stuff. Go check out Mr. Zack's stuff. And as always, remember the only rule here in the Fandom Zone: kneel before Mr. Zod.
The darkness before we never quite thought we could